All right, we're shared. Pedro, welcome
Awesome.
to Living Off Rentals.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. It's been forever.
I
My
know.
goodness.
I know, man. So just as a little bit of background for the listeners, Pedro and I go way, way back to when he was starting his investing journey about a decade ago now, almost, probably, right?
Yeah, 2013. Yeah, 2013 was our first deal. We did it with you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he and his lovely wife, Alex, got involved. Met up with my partners and I, who were heavily into flipping and teaching flipping at the time, and we partnered on several deals in the beginning. And I think yours were some of the best deals that we did overall.
Yeah.
They were fantastic.
Yeah.
And then Pedro did that for a while, and then he and his wife moved back to Puerto Rico, and he's been investing there ever since. And so we are long overdue to catch up, and there's a lot of blanks that I wanted to get filled in. And so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity for others to learn from your journey as well. And we could kind of have that conversation live here on the podcast.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think of it, right? I mean, 2013, we were basically taking seminars and learning from you, really, and your dad too, and Steve and John and everyone and the whole team. It was a lot of fun. And we definitely learned a lot from that, and just been applying it since.
Yeah, it seems like a lifetime ago, right?
Yeah.
So,
no kids. You weren't married yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. BC, before children. So
Exactly.
So if you can go ahead and just fill in some of the blanks that I left out there, and just kind of share what you've been up to. I mean, you can talk about Chicago too. You can talk about leading up to that, and then I'm really curious as we start to get into the Puerto Rico portion of it, what you've been doing for the last several years, and some of the things that you've done and some of the lessons you've learned. So go ahead and fill in the blanks.
Yeah, for sure. So like Kirby was saying, and we started in the Chicago suburbs. We did 2 deals with Kirby and his partners at the time, and they were just home run deals. And that's how we got started, because we're very much keen and very much believe on like getting the coaching and like paying your dues, so to speak, to learn from people that are doing it and that are doing it right. And so that's just how we started. I mean, we paid for their coaching program. It was amazing, great systems, great team, and that's how we got rolling. So we did 2 deals in the coaching program. Then we did, I think we did a wholesale deal on our own. We then did a flip on our own. We got a couple rentals while we were still living in the States. And then in December 2015, we moved back to Puerto Rico. Now, before we moved, we actually bought our first property here. We bought it in March, and we moved in December. So we already had that plan rolling of where we wanted to be, what we wanted to do. So we bought a 2-story house. It's maybe 700 meters from the beach. And that was our first property that we bought in Puerto Rico. And the intent was to make rentals out of it. So in the future, live in it. We bought it as a second home, and we paid $235,000 for it. And we put 10% down. That was our first property in Puerto Rico. And then while we were in the States, we got it rented. At the time, we made 3 units out of it. It already had like a little coach house in the back. It had the upstairs unit, and then we made an apartment in the lower level. Because in Puerto Rico, I really don't know of any place that has garages. Not garages, basements. So it's not something that you see here. But what I do and what I've done with the rentals I have is I'll take a 2-story home. So it's quite common to see a home where you have the main living upstairs and the lower level is a garage. It's quite common to see that here in Puerto Rico. So we took that property, we took the garage, we got rid of it, we divided it up into an additional 3 apartments downstairs, 1 little coach house in the back, and the upper level being another apartment. So we got 5 units out of it. And so we did all that, part of it while we were still in the States, part of the latter 2 units when we got back. And right now I'm actually in the process of selling that building for $470,000 because of the income it generates. So it generates good cash flow. So
you said you paid $235 for it.
$235. I put about 70 into it, and I'm going to sell it for $470. And I've been cash flowing it ever since I got it. So great cash flow.
Yeah. And what type of rent does each unit get on something like that?
So it's varied because it's changed a lot, especially this year. This year it's insane. But I think the first the first year I think we got, for the 3-bed, we got $1,100. We got like $650 for a 1-bedroom, small 1-bedroom, and another $650 for the other 1-bedroom. So very low rents. It's in a I guess upper scale town, but this is right by the beach area, which hasn't been like high end developed yet. There's a lot of like beach homes, second homes, that type of thing. So, but it's higher rents than everything else except the gated communities nearby. So it's like a nice sweet spot to be in. But right now the current rents, $1,450 for the 3-bed and 2-bath, $850 for a 2-bed 1-bath. I have one on Airbnb, and I usually have 1 to 2 on Airbnb, so I'll rotate them depending on what's going on, or just if someone comes and says, "Hey, can I rent your unit?" and I'm like, sure, why not? I'm like, I'm not fully like, I'm just willing to. It could be one or the other. It's fine. But the Airbnb is generating about $1,800 a month, and then you've got another 1-bedroom at $750, and then another 1-bedroom at $800. So it's it's 40. Yeah. It's around $47,000 of gross per year. Net, except obviously not including the mortgage. So NOI is $47,000 a year. Yeah.
Wow. So on a $300,000 mortgage, or $300,000 all in. Yeah. So
and I mean, we did 10% down, so that was, I think it was like, with closing costs and everything, was like $30,000 plus what we invested, so $100,000 out of pocket. Bought it March 2015. We're going to sell it for $470, so we're going to make a good return. Plus, like I said, we cash flowed it the whole time.
Yeah, amazing. That's awesome. Yeah. I kind of want to back up a little bit, and before we start to get into the deals and your progression in Puerto Rico. So I know a lot of people who are interested in Puerto Rico. Some, I follow some influencers who have moved there mostly for income tax purposes, and then others who have started investing heavily there. So obviously it was your home, so where you're from, you and your wife, but what was the initial reason why you wanted to move back, and what were your goals?
Well, honestly, it's just home and family, and this is paradise, really. So, so I'm obviously biased, but I wasn't a fan of the crazy winters in Illinois. So it was just, and one of the main reasons is we wanted to start having kids. So I mean, we've been planning it all out, and so we moved here in 2015. We waited until 2018 to have our first daughter, and then we had our second one in 2020. And so we just planned it out. I mean, I'm not opposed to going. Probably another country at some point would be fun and cool. But I mean, this is where family is, the support structure for the children, the cousins. I mean, it's got like 6 cousins here in Puerto Rico, all nearby. So I mean, that's a good motivation for us.
Yeah, it makes sense. And so from an investing standpoint then, and I always recommend that too, like to people I think people can overanalyze, like, where should I invest, and they will analyze markets to death thinking they're going to find the perfect market. And a lot of times it's like, well, where's your ecosystem?
Yeah.
Like if you're close to family, there's probably a good area to invest somewhere within an hour drive of you. Yeah. And you're the biggest factor. It's not like you're going to go some magic place where every single investing factor is going to be favorable. There's always going to be challenges. So
100%. I mean, money's been made in all markets in the whole country. So it's like, it's up to you to make it work. There's no other way around it. I mean, even here, like when we had the hurricane in 2017, we had a major hurricane that devastated the island. And for us, it was probably financially one of our best times. I mean, because it was, we were able to make it work for us.
I see.
And I mean, it's a cool story, and it has to do with short-term rentals too. So I'll share a bit of it. At the time, we had a building that we had just gotten on a lease to own. It was a 24-unit building. We got on a lease to own with a monthly contract of $10,000 per month. That was the rents that we would be paying, and then we'd keep, obviously, the difference, right? So that was like 3 months, 4 months in. The initial months we agreed and negotiated to be, I think it was like $9,000. And then the hurricane came in September. And at that point, it was the 2 stories, 2 buildings. The lower levels got flooded. They all got flooded. The owner didn't have insurance. Most of the tenants moved out. We were left with maybe 2 to 3 tenants after the hurricane. Most people lost their jobs because they didn't have anywhere to go to work. So everyone was moving with family, leaving Puerto Rico or whatever. And so we were able, and we were almost to a point where we're just going to give it back to the owner because this doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And just talking with him, we have a great relationship with him. We negotiated and we were able to just pay $1,500 a month for the time being until we got it all set and squared. And I mean, like I said, he didn't even have insurance. So we were the ones with our own money repairing the damage and figuring it all out, which was just, a disaster. And obviously no power. We didn't have power until December. So from late September, I think it was 20 something until December, no power. Everyone's living on generators. And then obviously being the entrepreneur and hustler that I am, I just found a bunch of generators. And I found a way to get generators and I just started selling generators, right? You just got to make do and survive. So, but that's another story. So we were able to hold on to the property. And then later on, I can't remember the month it was, but in talking with a realtor that I know, she told me that they needed she didn't know I had that building. And I think we were going to rent someplace at the time. A whole bunch of little details, but she told me she needed a big building to house electrical workers that were going to be working on the grid in Puerto Rico. Mm. And so I showed her what we had. They came from Fluor Daniels, which is a huge construction contractor in the US. And we were able to rent out everything we had available. We had around between 2 and 4 people inside each 1-bedroom apartment. So you would have 2 people in the bedroom, 2 people in the living room. We were charging $100, I think it was like $110 or $119 per night per person. We were also charging per diem, meals and incidentals. So we were charging meals. We provided, we got a catering company, and I made more money off the catering than the caterer. Because I took the spread also. So I made money on the catering. I made money on the cleaning service. We had a cleaning service. I made money on the laundry. We had a laundry service. We just did everything for them. Yeah. Unfortunately, it only lasted a month. They only stayed there for like a month and they dwindled down or whatnot. But we netted, and we also put a whole bunch of money into it. Like I said, we needed repairs. It only had ACs. Here in Puerto Rico, it's very common to just have split unit ACs. So it's not like central AC. You'll have a unit in each bedroom or in each area. And so it's pretty common. I never had AC growing up, but nowadays it's more common to have ACs in just in the bedrooms. And so each bedroom had an AC, but none of the living rooms had ACs. So we invested over $22,000 in putting ACs in every single one of the living rooms so that we could house more people, therefore get more income from it. And we bought, I can't even remember how many twin beds we bought. New twin beds, mattress, box spring frame, towels, the Costco towels. You name it. We just did everything. And a lot of that money was from our own capital or from credit cards. And so by the time we were done, I mean, we probably, like I said, we probably netted around $300,000 from
Wow.
in 1 month doing that. And that was so much fun.
Yeah. So you net, so that was after all your expenses.
Yeah, that was after all the expenses. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's
Gross was like
month.
600. Yeah, in a month.
Holy cow. Wow. Well, talk about, I mean, it just shows you like, you a lot of people will wait until they have all the answers to like move forward and take the next step. And it's like, well, most people in that situation would just be playing like contingency. Like, how do I get rid of this property? How can I give it back? And you're looking at like, okay, how can we make lemonade out of lemons here, or whatever the saying is. And you didn't have all the answers, but you figured it out, and it turned into something that was an incredible deal, just because you were willing to kind of take the chance. So I think that's a great story. Wow.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
Yeah. Wow. So that was that the only deal you had during the hurricane, or were there others that you were?
No, I had that 24 unit and the initial one.
Okay.
Well, and I had 2 flips also.
I see.
Yeah, I had 2 flips that I was working on also at the time, which got damaged or whatnot. But those were so when I first moved to Puerto Rico, I did 3 flips that I bought like within the first month, and they were the worst deals I've ever done.
Really?
Yeah, because I was coming with the mindset in like the market of thinking like the US, and here it's quite different in terms of construction. Obviously, we've got concrete. You guys have what I like to call cardboard. And so the structures here are sturdier and I think easier to work with because you got less stuff hiding. I mean, I just consider it so much easier, so much simpler, and it's so much cheaper. I mean, in the States, to rehab a house, you're talking, at least 50 grand. Here, if I'm spending 50 grand on a house, which I probably spent that on the first, because that's why I was coming with that mindset. So I just didn't know the numbers here on the rehab side. 50 grand is a huge rehab. Like on average, before all this crazy price increases, it was around 20, maybe 25. Wow. Now we're probably closer to 35 with everything going on. So, it's new tile. So everything here is tile, or usually 90% is all tile. There's barely any houses that have like wood floors. So it's like new tiles, new bathroom, new kitchen, new windows, usually just the front of the house for the curb appeal. Paint, seal the roof because you got to seal them here. It's a little different, obviously, from shingles in the States. We've got concrete flat roofs usually. So repair, seal those, and landscaping, paint, whatever. It's quite simple. Obviously, replace electrical, whatever needs to be done on that side also. But everything, as far as labor, is less expensive for sure.
Yeah. Wow. So you did those 3, and you said none of them really made money, and then basically that went right into the hurricane. So you had to be kind of freaking out a little bit at that point.
Well, I guess I had the advantage that, I still had the main rental, which I lived in. So I had an additional 4 units there, close to one I was living in at the time. Because we first rented it, and then when we moved back to Puerto Rico, we lived in the top unit in the upper level. So that was that. We had that income, and then also my wife. So I'm a chemical engineer by degree, and so is my wife. But I left that when I left Chicago. I used to work with the federal government, and I left that and just started doing the real estate here full time. But my wife, she still works as a chemical engineer with pharmaceutical here. So we had that income also. So that was a plus for us in being able to cover ourselves with the rental income. And then, obviously at the beginning it hurt, but we just, if you're, we're not victims. My wife, she's like huge. She's just an amazing being, an amazing person. She's such an amazing like support and a creator, and she's a powerhouse on herself, on her own. And then like we had the support of like my in-laws, like they even came and helped like cleaning up the property to get it ready. Obviously we'd pay them and whatnot, but like they were there if we needed. They always are. So and that's part of that, having that structure to support you there. And that's one of the, like I said before, one of the reasons we came here. But I mean, we just really never thought about it. Like when the hurricane first happened, and then initially it was just, okay, I did like a bunch of volunteer relief work. I did a bunch of that. I did that for a couple weeks, and because that's what was needed at the time, right? People really needed help. People really needed food, water, and just help getting all that stuff out there. And then I focused on, okay, now it's our time to figure this out. I mean, obviously we're like I said, we were backed up by my wife's job, the rentals, and then everything else we were able to just figure it out and just keep pushing. And okay, it was completely nonstop and insanity when we were getting those. I mean, we got like 22 AC units installed in like 3 days. We bought all the beds. It was just crazy. But we made it work.
Yeah. And I've seen you have a lot of success over the years. And I think from somebody outside looking in might say, well, it's come easy for him. But I know there's been a lot of struggle too. And I think, like you said, you've never said, well, I'm a victim here and woe is me. Like your attitude has always been, okay, we're going to figure out how we can get to success, and you and I had challenges with contractors when we were partnering on our first, on your first couple of flips.
Garcilaso.
Yeah. and there's always challenges that come up. And we just kind of push through and you'd show up after you're done with your day job and try to figure out what the issue was. And if you had to fire a contractor and move on or figure out a new solution, that was it. You weren't like, oh, it's too late. I'm too tired. I'm, whatever. I'm the victim here. It was just like, let's figure out a solution to make it work. So,
I completely forgot about all that.
Yeah. I think your memory blocks stuff out like that automatically when it's painful, but
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing too. I mean, like, as I said before, and you just mentioned it. So I worked as an engineer full time, and it was my wife and I it's so important to be on the same team and to be aligned, right? Mm-hmm. And so for us, it was like every single networking event, real estate club, like we did those all throughout the week that we were going to different real estate clubs. And then on the weekends or even during the weekday, we were looking at properties. Mm-hmm. And we burned through realtors, and that was just part of it, right? I mean, it is, you have to look at properties if you're going to figure out the real estate game. A lot of people think, oh, you're just going to sit and look at properties on Zillow and whatnot, and it doesn't work that way. I mean, it sounds cool, but to really know what you're doing, you really got to go out there and get your hands dirty and figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So the electricians then moved on. You've got now a 24-unit property that's been pretty much rehabbed. And then, so what was your next move from there?
So then after they left, then we just started renting normal, mostly long-term rents. We rented a few on Airbnb. We had the area where I'm in, like I said, it's like a higher end area. And then we've got a lot of the, which is some tax incentives you've heard at Act 60 at the time, Act 2022, that have moved. And so we had some, like, let's say the nanny was living with us or in one of our units, or the tutor or things like that. And then we had locals. So we had a good mix of all sorts of tenants there. But that building had some previous like bad construction type issues, mostly on the plumbing side. Okay. Just things that weren't done right. Like we'd have blockages and you'd have poop all over 2 apartments and stuff like that. Fun stuff. Yeah. And so at the end, we decided we tried to negotiate with the owner. So in the contract, we had $1.5 million, with just the purchase price, which now would be a steal, by the way. Yeah. He won't sell it for that now. But at the time, it would probably appraise 900, maybe $1 million at the time. And he wouldn't budge on price. And so we just moved on. So we just, we agreed to part ways, and that was it. Okay. So we got rid of that one. And then I continued doing my normal rentals, the 5-unit building, which at the time, actually I moved then. And so I rented the whole building, the upstairs also. By then I had moved. So that building paid for the rent of where I live.
Mhm.
So with the cash flow, I was paying for a really nice place with 4 beds, 2.5 baths, pool, nice big house.
Nice.
And then in November, and so I continue doing flips. I've been doing that continuously. I mean, the flips here are pretty cool, and it's a lot of fun. They're very different, again, from the States. I mean, I bought properties for 35 grand, 60 grand, 80 grand.
Wow.
I think the most I've paid for a property was just a couple weeks ago, and it was 151,671 is one for I paid last week, or 2 weeks ago. And because that one we're going to do an Airbnb. That one's going to be amazing. But normally the flips that I do, it's like 63,000, 80,000. And so we'll put 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 into it, and we'll sell it for, I'll give you, so 2 examples. One that I bought 3 weeks ago, 63,800 and something was the purchase. We're under contract to sell it for 155 already, cash offer.
And are you done with the rehab, or you're in the middle?
No, it's been raining for the last 2 weeks, so we haven't been able to finish, but it's going to be a late rehab. It's going to be like 18 grand, maybe 15. Yeah.
So you're pre-marketing it once you buy it to get a buyer right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Because with the way the market is right now, I mean, it's just insane.
Yeah.
It's moving so quick. Everything's like, especially here near where I live, it's insane.
Yeah.
So, I mean, properties here that were selling last year for 250, 300 are selling for $800,000 cash.
Wow. Holy cow.
And that's the tax. That's the Biden effect is what I call it. People are running away from the States because of the Biden taxes. They know it's coming.
And can you explain the tax benefit that you get there in Puerto Rico and why people are moving there?
Yeah. So basically there's like 2 programs, so to speak. One is for individual investors. One is for people that export services or products. So I actually applied for the export services or product because I want to use that to be able to do coaching of people that are in the States. So real estate coaching related to, but it can't be people in Puerto Rico. Like 90% of the business has to be export of services. So then
you're exporting coaching.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
So then you would pay, I think it's 4% tax for that side of the business. Now for investors, which I can't apply for that because you couldn't have lived in Puerto Rico between, I think it was 2006 and 2012. And 2006, I was still in college, so it doesn't apply to me. But that you get 0% capital gains tax. So we're getting a lot of folks on that side. We're getting stock folks, we're getting crypto folks, we're getting people that have other businesses, and then they come here and then they want to do, like, I have a couple people that I'm going to be working with soon that they're going to do some flips with me. They're going to invest money with me. They pay 0 taxes on it. So it's like, wow, why not? Right? Yeah. Why not? So they're going to do flips. They're going to do rentals because they pay 0% tax. So it's pretty crazy.
Wow. So just so I understand it right, so they have to move there and be a resident to get this benefit. So once you claim residency, you apply for this, and are your investments grandfathered in then? So if you own property here that you bought for $1 million, now it's $2 million, could you move there, claim residency, and sell it, and then that $1 million capital gains is 0?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a tax advisor or anything like that, but what I've read, let's say, and this is one of the examples I've seen most, and people ask in a couple of different Facebook groups that I'm in, like on crypto, for example. So they'll say you'll have to sell when you get here and buy it right back. That way you realize your gain, you pay the tax you got to pay to Uncle Sam, and then everything from there on is going to be taxed at Puerto Rico rates.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as far as real estate, like having real estate in the States, it really wouldn't work for real estate in the States because the gain is like, it's a physical asset in the United States. So there's really no export of services there. So from what I've understood and heard, it doesn't really apply to like a property that you had in the States.
Got it. Okay. Interesting. And so you were talking about some of the differences when you were rehabbing for properties there compared to the U.S. Can you go through like buying the property, rehabbing it, and selling it? Like, are there any other big differences, or what are some of the changes that you had to adapt to for people who might be interested in investing there?
Well, let's see. Most of the properties that I've bought up till now have been like auctions. So private auctions. So basically there's a company that does auctions, and they they sell the properties for the banks. And so I've mostly been through that, and there it's just, I mean, you go see the properties beforehand if you get the chance, and then you go to the auction, bid on it, you put in, I think it's like a 2% or 2.5% something down payment, maybe 5%, something like that, and then you just close on it. They'll tell you when it's ready to close once they have everything settled. If you're just buying a normal property, one thing here as far as which is very different as far as the real estate market is that there's not really a good MLS, a really structured and a good MLS. So we've got data all over the place in different systems. Like for appraisals, there's 3, as far as I know, 3 main websites that appraisers use, and or they can just go to the public record to see what property sold. But it's not like in the US where you've got the MLS and everything's there, every single sale's there, and that's all you need. Here it's like some properties you'll be able to find on the system with the comps, some you won't be able, some you just have to know, or you have to know where to look. So it's a lot more complicated in that sense. Also, like attorneys fees here, it's not like in the US when you sell a property. I mean, you're maybe paying for the attorney maybe $300 or $500 or whatever. It's pretty just whatever. And here it's between 0.5% and 1%.
Wow.
The note for the notary. So that's another differentiation, is that here a notary has to be an attorney.
Okay.
So notary has to be an attorney, and so they make between 0.5% and 1%, and you pay that when you buy, and you pay it when you sell. So whatever you've got, they've got to do all the signatures, all the notarization, all the recordings, and all that stuff, and plus then you've got additional fees. So that's quite different. MLS, and then just like I said, the general construction of the properties here. I mean, you've got, most properties are concrete, and it's not like in the States where you're just going to tear down a wall and put a beam and you're good. Here it's like, I mean, it's a concrete wall, usually concrete blocks, or sometimes it'll be like fully reinforced concrete. So when you're opening up walls, it's a little different and a little, you got to know what you're doing. You want to make sure that you leave enough. Like when I open up walls, and I'm not a structural engineer, I'm a chemical engineer, but when I open up walls, I'll just leave the upper part of the concrete is usually like poured concrete. Like if you look at that wall over here, like usually that upper part is poured, and then the rest is blocks.
Got it.
So you want to leave that as the main support, and also the columns. And so that's like when I'm opening up a wall, that's what I'll do. But again, not a structural engineer.
Yeah.
I do it on my own.
From a labor standpoint, I lived in Hawaii for a couple of years, and I noticed when I hired out to get things done, contractors, they seem to be on island time there. And so I didn't know if that carried over to Puerto Rico as well. Is it more difficult to get things done on time, and is there that culture of kind of
it's a little pace? It's harder on the timelines for sure, but also, and I mean it sucks, but it's the reality, at least what I've experienced. I mean, I usually my best contractors have been Dominicans. So people from Dominican Republic. So in Puerto Rico, and they're amazing, amazing, amazing people. I mean, my main guy right now, I mean, I lent him $2,000 just recently because he had some situation and he's never had anything like that. And I just lent it to him, and I didn't even blink about it because I know the type of guy he is. He's been working for me for about 2 years already. So amazing people, very hard workers, and I could make the comparison maybe to some extent to Mexicans like in Chicago area, right? Like actually the last contractor I think I had in the Chicago area was a Mexican, and again, very hard work. They're very hard workers. So here, it seems, I mean, especially right now with all the free money the government's giving away, I mean, it's very hard for many to get labor in any area, especially in construction, because people are making more money not working than working, right?
Yeah.
And so the advantage, I guess, to some extent with the folks from the Dominican Republic, I mean, there's some are citizens, some are not, some are green card, some are residents. I mean, so it is what it is. I mean, but these are the people that are willing to do the work, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, my main guy, he's a resident, and he does. I mean, I know he can take on anything and he'll figure it out. And the awesome thing is also that I mean, it's happened several times. Well, I'll say, well, maybe we should do this, we should do that. And he's like, well, but if you do that, that really doesn't add value to you and what you're looking for and to get it done quick, right? So he's looking at it for what actually benefits me. And he'll say, well, this is our business. Like my business is fixing houses, and that's how I make my money. And you make it by buying them, getting them fixed, and selling them. So we need to help each other. So I've been, just fortunate to be able to get people that think like that have that type of a viewpoint that they're like, I mean, this is a synergistic relationship, which I always remember when we had the discussions with the contractors when we were in the States. That was what we wanted them to see, is that we want this to be a win-win. We want you to win. It's the only way it's going to work. Because if I underpay you, you're not going to do the work well. You're going to leave, and it's everyone loses, right? So like I have my guy, I may be able to get someone to do it for less, but I know that he's going to get it done. And why wouldn't I want to contribute to his survival when he's contributing to mine? You know? Mm-hmm. So like, I'm not looking necessarily to get the cheapest guy. I want it to be a synergistic relationship where we both win.
Exactly. It's so invaluable to have a contractor that can see it from that standpoint, you know, you're not going to be able to pay him if you're not making money, and they need to see it that way. And also, they're probably going to, like, just like you said, there's going to be jobs that come up where, you know, I could probably hire this out to somebody else and make a little bit more profit on it, but you stay with him because he's loyal and it's less headaches, and he's a great guy, and vice versa. You know, there's some where my contractor is in the exact same boat as yours. You know, I've been with him for the last several years, and he's just super loyal, and he's lost or broke even probably, or come close on certain projects, and still gets it done for what he said, because he said that up front and we have an agreement, and so he's going to honor that. So we take care of each other, and it's a two-way street. I think I love that.
Yeah, it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to hear a little bit more. A lot of people in this community are kind of transitioning towards short-term rentals, just because when you look at like the property you just bought, if you can kind of go through the numbers on that, and once people find out about properties like that, it's hard to be content with the cash flow you're getting on long-term rentals. If you can share a little bit about that property, and then some of the challenges maybe, or things to think about as people transition into short-term rentals.
Yeah, so one thing, especially here in Puerto Rico, and I think you probably see it in your business as far as short-term rentals, is that people aren't just looking for a place to stay. They're looking for an experience. So if they're just looking for a place to stay, they'll just go to the whatever hotels nearby. But most people are looking more for an experience. And that's what I've found here, at least here in this market. How about you? What have you seen in terms of that? Is it
Absolutely.
a fair assumption? Yeah.
Absolutely. And Airbnb is even pushing that more. Like you can search for tree houses, you can search for farm stays, you can search, crazy stuff like that. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I look to do with my, like, whenever I put on, so like I said before, I mix and match between the Airbnb and the long-term rents. But that's what I always look to do, is create an experience, even though like it's a small apartment, the ones I'm doing currently. So I have two buildings. I mentioned only one of them, but I bought another one in October 31st, 2019, that I did the same model. It was a 2-story building and I made it into apartments. And then that one has some land next to a larger lot. So my plan is to, in the future, build another structure on it. And that one's like 100 meters from the beach. So that's the other one I have. So I have a small apartment there that I do for Airbnb, and it's a small apartment, but I think it's the things that you do that go above and beyond that makes the big difference, right? So, and I saw something you posted recently about how your guests were super happy with their stay with you guys and all that. And I love that. And I love when I see that. I mean, I've had a sticky note put on the fridge door, like saying, thank you for everything. We loved our stay and da-da-da. And it's just a small apartment, right? It's not a big, like something like a huge attraction, except obviously that you're close to the beach, which here we take for granted, but it's close to the beach, but it's the extra things you do. Like we'll leave water bottles, wine bottle, we'll have coffee, cream, sugar, salt, pepper. Like these little things that many times are just like, people just don't even think about it. But when you have them, it's like, oh, cool, I have what I need,
Yeah.
So those little extras. And we normally use like the little hotel size shampoos and all that, just because I think it's more convenient. So we use that, and people seem to like that also. And just really little things, really just small things make a huge difference. As far as this new one that we just purchased just recently, actually, so we're partnered on that one with Steve Budzik.
Nice.
He's our investor on that one. And so that deal, I bought it 151,671, something like that. I bought it for. The house in its current state would probably sell for 300. So I got an awesome deal.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I got an awesome deal. I mean,
does it even need work? I mean,
well, we're gonna do work because we're gonna make a pool. We're gonna add a pool. Okay. And then it had so this was a property that was lost we bought it at a court auction. And so the guy that lost it, I actually met him at the court auction. He was there, the gentleman, and he lost it because he got divorced and his ex wouldn't sign. So that's why he lost it. But it was quite interesting because just having conversations with him there, and he's never been to a court auction, and this was actually my third court auction at the time. So it was just a couple of weeks ago. It's a new game I'm getting into.
Yeah.
And so I'm explaining to him the whole process, how it works and whatnot. And we just got a good conversation. We went into the auction, which is quite different from this time, was quite different from what probably would expect. But literally we were at a desk. There was the representative from which is called alguacil, from the courthouse or the state or whatever. He's sitting right in front of us in the desk, and he's saying, this is the minimum. You've got the bank guy next to us, and have at it. I was the only bidder.
Wow.
The owner didn't bid on it because he didn't understand the process and he didn't have the money. There you have to go with the whole money. So you need to go with the manager's check, cashier's check, cash, or that's it. I mean, those are your only, or a money order. So.
And had you been in the property?
I only saw the outside. I've never been inside.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't go inside. I looked through the windows to see enough. So the thing with these court auction properties is that you won't always be able to get inside, right? So, so I was able to get that one, and just because I know my way, I figured out how to find properties that probably most people wouldn't have found. Because in Puerto Rico, the addresses are quite complex, especially when it's rural country types, and so it's not like B Street and that's it. It's a lot more complicated. So properties can sometimes be hard to find. And I was able to find that property literally, I think 3 days before the first auction. And I was able to get the funding for it and go to the first auction. It didn't go through the first, and I bought it at the second. So anyway, so that property, we're going to do an infinity pool. It's got 2,134 meters of land, which is like half an acre. It's got views, mountain views on the front and back of the property. So it has amazing views.
Nice.
And it's a big house. It's a big house. And it's got like a little, like a terrace area, barbecue-ish area. Very nice. And the owner told me just that he probably spent like $70,000 on it.
Oh my gosh.
Just on that. So, and it's that area, and it has a garage under it. I mean, it's an amazing home. Yeah. So we're gonna, the repairs that we're doing, we got to put in a new kitchen because they took the kitchen. We're gonna put in new vanities. They just have, house was built in like 2006, so it's pretty new.
Yeah.
But they've got like plain vanities. We're just gonna change the vanities. Put in new light fixtures. We had to put in all the new power outlet switches, whatever, because they took them. Closet doors, and then we're gonna put ACs in the bedrooms, which it's so windy there, we probably don't even need it, but for most people, I think that's a must. Yeah. So in Puerto Rico, it's like I said, growing up, I never had AC. I mean, I had a fan. Yeah. And if that, my grandmother didn't like fans. So, but there, I mean, now it's like becoming a little more expected, especially obviously for a short-term rental.
Yeah, and tourists. Yeah.
So we're gonna put in an infinity pool with an infinity jacuzzi overlooking towards the mountains.
Wow.
And so that's obviously going to be the bigger expense there.
Yeah. And how did you? I get this question a lot on pools or hot tubs. How did you do the economics on that? Like, how did you figure out that, it makes sense to spend the money on something like that? What's the average nightly rent without it or with it, or what was your process for that?
Yeah, so for that, we based it off a nearby property that is probably one of the most booked properties in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
The person that's doing my pool is the same one that did their pool, and he told me that Vin Diesel stayed there recently. So I thought it was a good reference point.
Yeah.
So, but that house, they've got a lot more land than we do, and then they utilize the land, meaning like they have crops, like stuff they grow of fruits, and people can actually walk like through little trails and take some of the fruits and all that stuff. So it's a farm. It's like a farm type setup, and it's really cool. So they charge, I think it's like $500 a night is what they charge, and it has, I think it's for a maximum, I think it's of 11 people, I believe.
Okay.
So I based mine off of theirs, really, because it'll have similar features. We'll do something similar with the land that we have. The pool and jacuzzi is gonna be built out by the same person that did theirs. And like I said before, it's about that experience. So especially since the pandemic, like they're booked. They have a couple like 2 days here and there available, but they're pretty booked like throughout the whole year. So so they're making a boatload of, and though my friend told me that they're making another property because they're doing so well with that one. And I mean, they're building it. So to go to the extent of actually building, not taking something that's existent, of building, which is a lot more costly in my opinion and experience. I mean, yeah, they're doing very well with it. So we'll probably be around $400 a night. We'll start at $300 while we get reviews and all that. We're going to furnish it so we could have so we've got 3 bedrooms. We have a common area. They have 3 bedrooms also. So we have 3 bedrooms on the upstairs, and then we have an area which is like a little living type area right by the bedrooms. We'll just put a sofa bed there also. And we'll probably just make it so it's probably at least 8 people. Maybe we could put a sofa bed downstairs or something like that. And so and since we're not having to do that much more to the rest of the property, it's like that's going to be our really only big ticket item. Everything else is like nothing.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. So $400 a night. You can do the quick math there. If you rented it 30 nights,
I always
a
assume
month,
20.
obviously that's 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I go with 30 just to do the calculation of what the max gross is, and then you figure out a vacancy rate. So if it's rented 66% of the time, which I think is probably low based on what you're saying, and also you're pricing it under that other property. So if people are choosing between the two and yours is cheaper, but it offers just as many amenities, then obviously they're going to pick yours. So and then you've got the cleaning fees on top of that, which you could potentially make money on the cleaning fees as well. So there's significant cash flow on a you'll be all in for how much? 210,000. So your mortgage payment, just the mortgage alone, probably is around $1,000, $1,200, something like that. And so the cash flow on these short-term rentals is just unbelievable if you're willing to get a little more involved, because it's not as hands off as a typical long-term. But that's incredible. Congrats on that deal.
Thanks.
I'm surprised you trusted Steve enough to partner with him. I wouldn't have done that, but no, I'm just kidding. Steve's a great guy.
For sure.
So
it's funny. One thing on that deal is that it's funny because my wife and I had talked just fairly recently. So that property is pretty close to where my family is, which is like an hour from where I currently live. So my family on my mom and dad's side. And just recently we were thinking, wouldn't it be cool to have like a country house, so to speak, near my family? But obviously I'm not just going to have a country house to have a country house. I'm going to make money on it. So so it's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the other big benefit. I had my birthday last year at one of our Airbnbs that my family all came out to, and some of them were investors in the Airbnb too, so they got to experience
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's cool what you can do with them. I love that. Well, I won't keep you much longer. Last question for you. So for people who are listening to this, just getting into real estate investing, seeing the light that rental properties are a great way to build wealth. What's your biggest piece of advice for them?
Honestly, it's listening to people like you, learning from people that are doing it, that have done it, and following their lead, because that's what's worked for me. That's how I got rolling. I mean, I when I first started in the real estate game, I invested $27,000 with Rich Dad Education on like 7 credit cards just to learn, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I would do it again because it brought me to, I learned some out of that, of course. And then that brought me to meeting Kirby and meeting all sorts of people in the real estate game and learning from them and seeing, it gives you a whole different viewpoint, and it gives you a different mindset when you actually invest in something because you actually want to learn and know about it. Like, it's not like school where you're made to go, right? And you're just studying because you have to, or some kids go to college because their parents want them to, and it's getting paid off by Uncle Sam anyways, so whatever, I'll just go drink. It's different when you're in this mentality of you want to create something and you invest with someone that's already done it and you can learn from what they're doing. So I think for me, that's what's worked for me, and that would be my biggest piece of advice is, like, continue looking and following what Kirby's doing, buy whatever he's got to sell, which he should be selling.
I didn't even pay to say that. Man, I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, it's just, that's the truth, honestly. And especially when I think people get to see and just have like that kind of sixth sense of the type of people they want to work with. And like Kirby is the type of people I want to work with. And when I buy classes, when I buy coaching, when I buy books, I'm looking at the complete package of the person. I'm not just looking at that one facet, because I think that you have to. It's a package. Life is a whole package. It's not just one thing. So that's what I'm looking at, and those are the type of people that I want to surround myself with. Those are the type of people I want to learn from and with. And then that's the people that I want to also help.
Yeah.
People that want to, it's not just about real estate, and it's not just about money. It's a huge part. Money is definitely a huge part, but I think it's about the impact also. I think it's about the satisfaction, like you guys receiving that note from that person that stayed with you guys. Like that is like one of the best experiences one can get, is someone just being happy with the effort you put in for them to help them. So, I mean, that would really be my greatest piece of advice.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more, man. And there's so much, that's the main thing I've learned, I think, over the years as I've matured in real estate investing, is there's a lot of BS out there, and there's a lot of people who are selling something that, and they're not very genuine. So I think that's great advice for people that, look at the person and look at their life, and do you want to emulate somebody like that or be around somebody like that? It's not just about making a buck. So I think that's great advice. I really appreciate you taking the time today. I know I got a lot out of this. I think this community will really benefit from it. What is a good way to contact you, to work with you? What's the best way to reach out?
Probably through my Facebook. Actually, I have a Calendly link on there, so just hit me up through Facebook, or just call me 787-385-1462. It's my cell phone.
Awesome.
Call me, text me, WhatsApp.
I'll be texting you at midnight, so I appreciate you sharing that.
Well, midnight, it's on airplane mode, but I'll see it next morning.
Sounds good. Well, thank you again for taking the time. It's been
Thanks,
great.
brother. Love you. I love seeing what you're doing. I love your amazing, beautiful family you've created. It's just beautiful to see. I love it.
Thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk soon, brother.